Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves some tracks from an act named Christian Stutzig from Christian Stutzig Records. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the Angel track, the official music video on YouTube. Now, I've reviewed a lot of Christian Stutzig's music in the past and I do typically enjoy my time with it. There have been times where I've not been so sure about things, but usually it's good. So we're going to listen through this track alongside, what was the other one? Together My Friend was the other name of the other track. We're going to listen through both of these from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Starting with Angel, let's go. A little bit quiet with the strings, but that's okay. At least there's dynamic range with the tings.
Once I had a dream, you were the best part of me. An angel with a beautiful soul, the most precious diamond ring. Oh, what could I do? She's the most precious part of me.
Nice vocal runs.
I never could live without her. I'm so thankful being around her. But what can I do? My heart is working against my head.
Sick transition to the guitars here.
Sometimes there are crazy things that happen in my mind. But what can I do? My heart is working against my head. Sometimes there are crazy things that happen in my mind. I cried every night just to have her by my side. I'll never forget your beautiful face. The morning sun just fade away, and I will remember you until the last dawning. Forever I'll hold you with my hands. I look at your pictures and take the chance just to remember your face when I'm lying in my bed.
I think we get what the crux of the track is about. It's about someone coping with their thoughts and their condition that they're in, whilst they kind of associate and try and process the feelings they have for this person who they really desperately want but just can't seem to have.
But what can I do?
It's an interesting motif to go alongside that.
Against my head. Sometimes there are crazy things that happen in my mind. But what can I do? My heart is working against my head. Sometimes there are crazy things that happen in my mind. I love you so much, I can't describe it with words. You're the best part of me, but now you are here.
Oh no, they're here. No, I've misinterpreted it. Oh, so they've gotten together.
What can I do? My heart is working against my head. Sometimes there are crazy things that happen in my mind. But what can I do? My heart is working against my head. Sometimes there are crazy things that happen in my mind. You're my all and my everything.
Oh, vocals by Sakir.
Even the story will end, but this time with a happy end.
It's nice to have a happy ending because we don't always get those with Christian's music. Thanks for watching. You're welcome, Christian. Yeah, so I think as I was mentioning this track, I think I initially misunderstood it. It was more about the fact that we're getting a happy ending because this person did eventually end up with us. So I suppose even though we're sort of lamenting what, we're lamenting the fact that our heart and our brain don't always get along, we are nonetheless thankful for their existence in our life. And there's a lot of really lovely stuff said about this person, this angel. While I'm not totally sure about the leveling of elements in the mix, it seems like the guitars or the keys are just a little bit too quiet in comparison to the vocals, so I'm wondering if this was mixed in mono before release. What I will note is that I think that the actual motifs on the keys and the guitar were very nice and pleasant. They were uplifted in a major tone, and even though there was some chromatics or some unusual modulations occurring in that verse section, it was more of a kind of a fanciful thing, like we're almost just kind of walking along with a sort of a smile on our face, just kind of vibing and glimmering and glinting away at the prospect of this being the rest of our existences with this other person, So I think ultimately we didn't need more than this, and I think it was a nice balance between the instruments and the vocals, sans the comments about the levels. And then we have Together, My Friend, the female version. It's nice to have more of a kind of groove-led pace with the strings I think we shared in a previous track. I'm a bit happier with the way things are leveled in this one. The piano and the keys and the vocals with the double tracking as well just seem a little more even here. I'm liking the breathiness of the vocal performance here. I think that's very charming, and all in all things are very elegant with the consistency of the triads within the motif and the freedom to sort of explore scale shapes in the lead. Nice bass resonance there. There's definitely room for it. That was a really sick transition into this next interlude section. I liked how he extended that note there to add a bit of uncertainty. To move into this, it's like, oh, what's going to happen next? Switching to a minor key as well. I think this is my favorite track of the two at the moment.
This song I send, a bond that time will never end. Forever grateful for the love we share. This friendship, my dear, beyond compare.
I think it's kind of charming to have the vocals in time with the rhythm of it. I'm not sure what we're going to do from here though. I feel like you could have probably ended it on that note. So if we're going to do another chorus, it's quite a bit. Oh. Oh, we're repeating it for the outro card, right? So we had Zahir in the previous one, Zahir, if I'm not mistaken. We have Lily doing vocals in this one. No, that was great. No, I think I'm happy with this one. I think I'm happy with the way things are arranged and produced. There is a nice friendly message here, you know, celebrating our friendship, how it's going to be continuous and how we're going to have all these good times and appreciate each other, and it'll be kind of sunbeams and daffodils and all that kind of good stuff. I think that's a really nice message that a lot of people are listening to this will be able to appreciate. I think the piano motif, we had the same chord progression up until that interlude, is fine. It may have been better to have had a slight variation on one of the chords per verse or chorus just to kind of allow for a bit of a palate cleanser, but at the same, especially with the consistency of how the things like the drums and the pianos and bass and stuff like that. Well, to hear the bass came in a bit later on, if I'm not mistaken, but still, you know, like we kind of got the idea of the theme, especially around that halfway point when all the instruments have been added. And I'm not sure if we couldn't have had more variety after that interlude or like a bigger kind of outro to kind of really kind of bring it up. I also don't necessarily feel that we benefited explicitly from that last chorus being there after the 4-minute mark, but we'll go into that in the conclusion. Everything else was good. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of these tracks from an act named Christian Stutzig, titled Together My Friend, the female version, and of course we listened to Angel. Now, these two tracks are a good direction, I think, for Christian to be going in with his tunes. They represent two different stories. One about an angel, a person that is much beloved by the person that's singing about them, and they're glad that they're there in their life and that they have them. There's gratitude, there's adoration shown. It's altogether very positive. And then Together, My Friend, being together, enjoying each other's company, making the most of life, having a future, and just showing, again, that appreciation. So there's like a consistent theme of gratitude across both of these tracks, as well as love for the people they're with. And I think that if we look at it from like a storytelling perspective and whether people will be able to sort of like appreciate it, I think they will. These are not particularly out there, alternative, exotic themes. People typically, I think most people can relate to either having loved someone and being appreciated and being there, or, you know, having friends and appreciating and being there and the possibilities in the future they'll have. So I think that that's fine story-wise. The vocals from Zahir in Angel were great. I think they had a really solid vocal technique. The head and chest voice was good. We weren't always totally in time with the way that the rhythmic elements of the backing were being played, but I think that was maybe more to keep it more sort of like of a casual kind of organic conversational tone, which is fine. I don't mind that. It's simply just a matter of if you do or not. And subjectively, you know, like it's, you know, I think that we sang well. It might have had more oomph if we'd been totally in unison, but also it's okay if we're a bit freeform with it. It can kind of be a little bit of a drag if you're too kind of like militant about staying in time with everything else or in sync with everything else. So bar that, there were some interesting vocal melodies that we had within Angel, although we were typically dominant in the mix over the guitar piano parts, so it was difficult to really miss the vocal parts anyways. But that said, they sounded good and I was happy with the breathiness of the performance and how it was communicated. With Together My Friend, I think that we had Lily working on Together My Friend with Christian Stutzig on that one, and I think that the vocals from Lily were fantastic as well. It was a confident performance. They seemed well in tune with the melodies and the harmonies they wanted to sing, as they were backing vocals as well in the choruses. And I think there was enough range there with the actual performance itself to keep things interesting throughout. I think there was more a limitation that came from the fact that we were trying to have more of a formulaic structure there, which, like, I get it. It's okay to want to make stuff pop, and pop isn't by no means a unsuccessful or bad genre, quote unquote, to make stuff with. And these chord progressions that we've used in songs like Together My Friend, they work, people enjoy them. It's more just, I think that, especially with that last chorus where I wasn't sure if we necessarily needed it, it was just that I think we were limited by the fact that we had that. We couldn't necessarily get too exotic with the chromatics or anything like that. We did do some vocal flurries and legato runs and stuff like that, but I think it was a relatively controlled performance, and I think that made sense considering the conditions. Both vocalists sounded like they cared about what they were doing, and it seemed like really authentic performances, and I liked the talking part in Together My Friend at the end. I thought that was kind of intimate and really sweet, and I wish that the song had finished on that note just because it would have been a cool way to finish it, but it's okay. The tracks were both outside of the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, and while I don't necessarily mind it, I think that we could have potentially benefited from having some more alternative instrumental leads in addition to the vocal runs we had. Like, we clearly understood that we needed to add an instrument, like after the first minute, like add a new element to kind of develop it and continue keeping it fresh to people and trying and exploring it from different angles and stuff like that, such as with the strings or the bass parts we included. But it's about also going, okay, is this extra repetition necessarily benefiting the experience of the listener? And with Together My Friend, it was a great hook. I'm just not sure if we needed it like a 4th time. It's great to hear it, but I think we could have ended on the tour. I've said this a lot, so I'm not going to harp on about too much. Outside the length of the tracks and my city about whether we needed them to be as long as like Together My Friend was, I think Angel, it's okay. We had more story to tell. There were more verse stanzas there. It's okay. So like, it's fine. I just think that both tracks would have benefited from a little bit of extra funk and zazz from the backing elements there. Although what I will say is a few of the instruments that I enjoyed were the drums, for example, and Together My Friend. To give credit where it's due, I think the percussive elements there were really intriguing and interesting, and I like the fact that we didn't just have a central 8th note groove the entire time. We did mess around with different 16th note fills, and it was great to have that exploration there, because especially with an element that wasn't there in Angel, it's just riveting to have that variety there. It spices things up. And I like the fact that we didn't have drums all the time. There were moments where we kind of took it away or like lowered the intensity, but there was dynamic range there and also range into the intensity there, which kept it enthralling. And I think that the beats were typically very relevant and appropriate for the everything else going on in each section. I think the guitar lines that we had in songs like Angel, where we went from the piano to the guitar finger-picked parts. Like, I know we had like triangles and stuff like that. I'm talking about sort of the dominant elements that really grabbed my interest. Everything else was okay, and if there was something terrible, I'd mention it in a way that was kind. But I think the guitar lines with the finger-picking that we had in Angel added a sense of warmth to the arrangement that maybe there wasn't necessarily there before with the keys. And I think that it's really important to like have have a backing for one section and an alternate for another, because it helps to, even if you don't necessarily change the progression or the bass line, you're changing the style and texture and feel of it, and that can help listeners figure out where they are. I think the one upside to having like a quieter backing in Angel was that even though there was complexity to the way the guitars were played in regards to the arpeggios and patterns, it wasn't too abrasive with its complexity because of the fact it wasn't as it didn't have as much presence. So that could arguably have been part of why we did that. Now, the piano lines, I think that is Christian's main instrument, if I am not mistaken. And I think that it shines. I'm happy with the concepts we're putting forward here, with Angel having some interesting major and minor tonalities with some occasional chromatics, I think, that are happening in the verse sections there. Just some modes, kind of like sharp fourths or something like that. I could be wrong, but there's some interesting sounds and interval choices there that really make the piano more than just a cut and paste, put a trendy, patch of loop here. Granted, Together My Friend was comparatively more conservative with the way that it was doing the bum bum bum, 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 bum. It was doing that kind of progression a lot. And I think the strength of Together My Friend was allowing the other elements to contrast with the consistency of the keys. You could have potentially articulated your right or left hands in different ways, but I think that maybe outside of the drums, the piano was the key thing pushing things forward. And even though if it was relatively soft, I don't necessarily mind that. We didn't become too complicated with the harmonies there, and I think that is appropriate because I think that it's good that we avoided any really complex harmonies or sort of any elements like that because the lyrics themselves weren't particularly complex. It was relatively easy to understand what was going on once you kind of got into the song. So it's nice to have that relative simplicity to it and sense of minimalism. The themes for Angel and Together My Friend did sound relatively similar. Granted, Angel was a little bit more low-key, as if we were kind of sitting down on a park bench outside, kind of stoked, kind of relatively pleased with how things have occurred. Together My Friend seems like more of a journey about all the things you're going to do and how excited you are for it, and how grateful you are that they're along for the ride. So there were slight differences in how the instruments made me feel, but I can kind of imagine the use of chord shapes, the constant percussion, the groove movement forward of the accents with Together My Friend, with Angel being not having the drums, but having a sense of stasis with like just thinking in your own head about how lucky you are to have that person. I think that there is stuff to appreciate with these, and I think it's good. So I think the themes work. In regards to the recording, mixing, mastering, studio production, aside from what I mentioned about elements of Angel, like the piano and guitar being a little bit quieter than I think they needed to be able to sort of keep up with the vocal parts, everything else was pretty good. I liked the way the strings sounded as well as the bass parts, and the drums are nice and punchy. The guitars and keys otherwise made sense for how they sounded and where they were placed in the stereo field. There didn't appear to be any resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. The vocal performances were captured really well. I mean, I think that both singers, they were comfortable in front of a mic and they seemed polished, and it was nice to just be able to relax and enjoy it. There was dynamic range to the tracks, if only because of the difference in leveling, but just in general because things didn't sound like they were being squeezed. I also think this is like a quieter master for both, quote unquote, but I don't necessarily think that tracks like this needs to be pushed in the limiter in order to be good. But that said, it was still, relatively nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. And I mean, effectively, this is my review of these tracks from Christian Stutzig of Christian Stutzig Records, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.